it's the next level.
I smashed my way to this bullshit reality to save Chromium.
You saved the fucking world.
I did. That one anyway.
You still got them superpowers? The power to drink a fifth of whiskey and not pay for it.
Hey, he paid for my drink. He gets the story.
I sure do.
How about another one? The Chromium.
Chromium.
Hey, Palmers, welcome back to the show. I'm Mark.
And I'm Steve.
And this week we are going to be covering the movie Archenemy. Brain fart.
yeah, that's okay.
No, the movie's not Brain Fart, everybody. It's Archenemy, and that came out in 2020. And it was led by Legion M. If you guys don't know what that is, it's pretty much I don't know, like a...
I guess it's sort of, I guess fans are able to
pay into
it. But
yes,
man, if you watch the title card for this one, there was like several production companies. So, you know, like it may have had a low budget, but it had a bunch of different production companies involved with it. Now, maybe those are just, you know, tiny companies that I don't know. But I did note that it was a long, you know, sequence of production companies at the beginning. But the second time I watched it, I was like, dang, this is a long.
They had a lot of upstart people trying to help them out to get this movie going.
Yeah.
But John Manganiello, actually, if you remember him, actually Daphne on Run for Your Lives talked about him on, of all things, what was it? Rampage?
Yeah, Rampage. He had a very small part. You think he's going to be a major part of the movie, and then he's only in it like a few minutes. Like he's not
spoilers.
Very long. Yeah, sorry. But Rampage is from a while ago, so if you spoil on Rampage, sorry.
And he also played Deathstroke at the very end, but it was a deleted scene in I think the Justice League.
Oh, okay.
Movie. It was a deleted scene. He played Deathstroke in that.
Yeah.
So, you know, he's been around. We all know his face. He started as far as I'm concerned, I remember him from True Blood. And he was a werewolf in that.
Yeah.
And
I still have not watched that show.
Oh, really?
Yep.
Oh, cool. But a lot of people know him as the husband of Sofia Vergara. So, and on top of that, he is such a big, huge dude. Mm-hmm. He's a deep down geek and loves his superhero shows, comics, Dungeons and Dragons. Come on. It's so cool that, you know, you got somebody who's that cool looking and, you know, is all into the same stuff that we are. Plus, he played Flash Thompson in Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man. So
okay. I didn't even put that together. So
yeah, we got him. That's how I remember him as within sort of like the superhero films and stuff like that. So he worked on this himself and got it set up. So with Archenemy 2020, the synopsis is basically Max Fist claims to be a hero from another dimension who fell through time and space to Earth, where he has no powers. No one believes his stories except for a local teen named Hamster. And it's kind of vague, which is cool. And if I didn't really see this pop up until I started seeing commercials on my Facebook page, and I'm like, it's like, I got to watch this movie. When's it coming out? Oh, and I figured it out and I said, all right, Steve, we got to do this. This is an interesting concept because it is pretty much low budget, but it's got some really good heart in it as far as the concept, the idea. And you could see how low budget they went because, you know, with him not having powers, he's a homeless guy on the street and this kid follows him around and he's telling these stories and the way they actually create the stories is really cool, in my opinion.
Yeah, I was not aware of this movie until you suggested it, so I didn't know anything about it, and so it was really it's kind of different in the way it works, kind of going back and forth between kind of animation scenes with his flashbacks and then with the real life stuff was really, really cool. And I think probably the biggest thing for me is I just loved the uncertainness we have about his character. There's even parts of the movie, and we'll get to this when we get to our discussion. There's parts of the movie where you go, "Oh, it is real," and then then something else will happen, and you go, "Well, no, maybe he's just a schizophrenic, homeless guy."
It keeps you thinking.
Right. It kept me going back and forth, up until really the end and the big reveal towards the very end.
Mm-hmm.
So I really thought that was cool. I thought it was cool that, and I think I have it in my notes that we hear Max's story through his eyes, but we're also kind of seeing it through Hamster's eyes. And then at the end of the movie, we're going to get another perspective on Max's story when we get to Cleo. So I thought that was really, again, it's a cool, the character elements in this movie are really, really good.
Yeah, I thought the same way. My general thoughts, basically, I just love the use of the comics in motion to create his thoughts or him telling his history to Hamster and like certain situations that he was in. And then on top of that, originally Nicolas Cage was supposed to play Max Fist at some point at first, but I guess he turned it down. But then, went to Joe Manganiello and then it got into his lap, because he was so into comics and Spectravision and, Legion M funded everything that was going on. And Legion M, like we were talking before, was the same company that helped movies like Colossal with, I forgot her name now, Devil Wears Prada.
I don't remember that one. So
yeah, and Jay and Silent Bob Reboot.
Right.
As well. So they were movies that didn't have huge budgets, but they had known actors in them. And the fact that the actors stood by it, and then I guess they gathered money to get this going. So to me, anytime I see a Legion M thing, I have to go see it. They had a documentary about the Alien series too, and I picked that up as well. So it's a good company, and I think the way they promote it is movies for the fans by the fans, meaning that it's fan-based where they set up funding for these movies to happen, which is pretty cool. It's a good concept.
Yeah. Like I said, it was really enjoyable even watching it the second time. So.
Yeah. So we should get into our discussion points and about this movie. You want to start off with
Sure. So for me, I went in almost completely cold. Like I said earlier, I didn't know anything about this movie. And so I kind of started it. And as it started going, I stopped the first time and went back to kind of reread the IMDb synopsis of it. And that helped me kind of see where it was going. So I understood what we were looking at. And, the IMDb synopsis, sometimes it's a little too, like it gives you too much spoilers, but this one was really just, succinct enough. At least the one that I read, the one that's in our document here, is it's succinct enough, and it doesn't give anything away, but yet it tantalized me for the story. So I really, really liked that, and I said that before about the going back and forth between the animation and real life.
Cool. Well, first off with me, I really like the concept of a kid trying to make it on his own within a story for a media company of all things. Hamster's trying to, he dropped out of school despite what his his sister wants for him, even though she's doing illegal things. And it's basically a comic company based on what he saw and heard from Max as being a homeless man. He saw Max doing these things, like he was pounding the wall. He goes, "Dude, you're gonna hurt your hand." He didn't really hurt his hand. And Hamster wanted to do something creative as soon as he started hearing Max say all these stories, or give him all these stories of where he came from, who he was. The first thing you think of in being the viewer is like, is this like the movie Hobo with a Shotgun with Rutger Hauer. But, in this case, you think, okay, this guy's high on something and he's, and just like what you were saying before, you're really not sure where to come from with this because everything is a motion comic from his description of his world, his powers, what he did there. But, all in all, I respect what his sister was doing with trying to bring her brother up alone, and Max was there to give him some sort of focus. Mind you, he wasn't going to school, but the fact that, it gave the kids to focus on his dreams of what he wanted to and this company that, gave him a chance. So I thought it was pretty cool with that aspect.
Yeah, and I like that you mentioned the thing about the drugs because we see him buy some drugs, Max. We see him buy drugs early on in the film, which I didn't really catch the first time I watched it. So the second time you could see what he's doing there, and later we see him. I think we only actually see him do drugs like twice. I think. But you have to think that he's been doing it throughout the whole film because these things that he's doing, even without his superpowers, should be hurting. He should be, like the whole punching the wall thing and stuff like that. And I thought it was interesting too that when Hamster sees him do the drugs, he's very specific to say, "Don't let my sister see you do that." And I thought, and I've got some more on that later with when we talk about Indigo and Hamster particularly. You've already hit on some of their relationship, but it just is really interesting the fact that the drugs they gave him the strength, they gave him the endurance, and that was also part of what confused us or had us go, well, okay, is he superhuman or is he just on drugs? And so yeah, that's it was really that again, that was that tension of going back and forth between is he for real or is he not?
Exactly, which will lead, and I'm going to combine my next 2 points together as one. Now that I already read it, I see that I already mentioned a bunch of these things already, but the action within the movie was really good, especially when you see towards the end, he's punching the brick wall, and then you get that illusion of like him seeing that woman in there, that vision. On top of that, him getting hit with the car. Yeah. Come on, I would have fell down. Yeah. He just got back up. There was so many things that Hamster was making him do that no human could really do and not really like break a bone or something. Yeah. I don't care how high you are. That guy was not hurting in any way. Yeah. So I thought it was pretty cool. And I still have to add that I just love the motion comic stuff because it added that whole comic book effect to it,
Yeah. Yeah. Very good. So I kind of want to talk a little bit. Let's talk about Hamster and Indigo. Let's kind of focus in on them a little bit. And you mentioned already a little bit about, Hamster says that he dropped out of high school. His sister keeps saying she's trying to get him to go to college. And he's like, well, I dropped out of high school. How am I going to get to college? And she thinks she's going to be able to get enough money to bribe him into college. And it just seems
it's unrealistic.
Yeah, there were some interactions between them that I was kind of like weren't realistic, and
you're also talking about somebody who makes blue meatballs.
Well, yeah, exactly. It was a little crazy there, and that she thinks that she's going to be able to get out of the business when she's able to get them out of that apartment or whatever. And I really did like, though, it was very touching when they talked about their dad, and she revealed to Hamster that dad was a storyteller too, just like you want to be someone who tells stories. And you could see that she's worried about him. She doesn't want him to get into the drug dealing life, even though she's in it. She doesn't want him to get hurt. She doesn't want him doing stuff that's dangerous, like this reporting on these crimes. And after they have that fight in the manager's office where she shoots that guy in the leg, and then later we just see the emotional toll that all of this is taking on both of them. Even to the point where there's a point where Hamster even almost loses faith in Max because he sees Max kill those guys, and he's just like, he kills the guys in the apartment and he kills the guys at the managers. He's doing drugs, and it really, there's that moment where Hamster loses his faith, and him and the sister leave, and they're going away, and Max is left there by himself, and he sees the manager go off with Cleo, and that's a whole. We'll get into that probably more later, but I just found that sibling relationship was at times it worked for me, and at times it didn't work.
Yeah, I feel the same way. But the one cool scene out of that was when Max shows up with Hamster, and Indigo is being, I guess, accosted by the thugs to get the money, and she lied to them. And the next thing you know, Max just goes nuts.
Yeah.
And then he kills that guy, and that's when, Hamster freaks out. Like, you just killed that guy. He goes, let's get out of here. And they do. And then, of all things, I don't know if it was at that point or that scene where he takes the methamphetamine. And of all things, a methamphetamine opens up his awareness for his powers and everything. I thought that was an interesting concept. It's like, okay, in this world, methamphetamine works for you.
Yeah, he has that whole monologue in the stairwell about the chemical reaction that it's almost like he's explaining that it's not that the drug, like you said, I now I get it. Now that you say that, I think that's what he was indicating, was that the drug kind of activates his powers so that he's able to do the things that he's able to do. And so that is an interesting concept, of that thought of his physiology is so different that the drugs react to him differently and he reacts to them differently then.
Yeah, not like a regular high, but for him,
right,
it activates certain things within his body chemistry.
Yeah.
Whereas everybody else will just be tripping balls.
Right. Yeah. So I like the scenes where Max, when he talks about Chromium, he talks about his home, and he talks about it being a parallel world from ours, that he punched his way through dimensions. And I said earlier, we see that story through Max's eyes, and it isn't until the end when we get Cleo kind of talking a little differently about the what happened, and that the people didn't love him, really, that it was so there were too many people with superpowers, and she was trying to stop that. But at the same time, he talks about this divergence, and I'm assuming that this divergence is what she was trying to correct with her Voight device, because she said the Voight device is going to make us human again. And then at the end, she says, well, I actually did what I intended. You're human. I'm human. We don't have superpowers here. And so, yeah, it was really interesting as we saw all that unfold. And as we've come to that realization that they're both from this parallel world. And there was one funny thought that I had, that when Hamster is listing all of his fist facts, he's like fist fact number 57, his crystal power fist is this, and he can crush that. Do you think all that was stuff that Max told him, or do you think that maybe he embellished and made some of that up?
I really think Hamster embellished a little bit on that, because it doesn't sound like something Max would say, and it's just like, all right, he's trying to sell this to whoever, this company as a story. So
exactly.
So I think that was part of his storytelling.
Yeah.
But the fact that he's there with a camera, his phone camera, and he's taking these little videos of him like jumping off things, and like what he jumped off a building or something, and then the car issue, and he's punching, like he said, he's doing these little videos of him. I don't know if he jumped off the building, but I know he's got him. He's showing the video of him watching over the streets, kind of like a Batman kind of character. Yeah,
and you can really see that Hamster is playing up the drama of who, and the people are loving it, because that's what the one woman says is, oh man, you keep getting hits like this and getting views like this, we'll put you on staff here, because it's this is this truly is a movie that is except for the pandemic, prior to the pandemic, it's true to the times, to our times right now, that people would be eating this kind of stuff up.
Yeah,
these kind of viral videos of this guy running around,
like doing YouTube videos that are up that people
exactly
just throw together and they have to watch over and over again. Like the guy getting hit in the face with the tea.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
Don't look that up, people. But yeah, another thing that I found interesting was that ending, the way it was left pretty much open-ended in a way.
Yeah.
I knew that Indigo was important, but this made all the foreshadowing of her character come through in the very end, so it made sense. And that she was truly important to the story itself, and the way, Cleo and him, and the fact that she states, we're human now. And when they go through, out the building onto the floor, she's bleeding out, but he's bleeding. What was it? Blue?
Blue. Yeah. No, it was really cool. Cause again, it was one of those scenes that I didn't pay close enough attention to the first time. So when I watched it for the second time, I really paid close attention to it. Cause she says something about, I've been waiting for us to be in the same room, to be in close proximity, because I think there's going to be a chemical reaction or something like that. And that's when she shoots him, and he bleeds blue.
Yes.
There in the room, and she says, it did it. We have this. We're having this bond or whatever, and that's when one of my quotes that I have is that's when Hamster realizes everything's true. He sees that blue blood, and he's like, "It's true. It's all true."
Exactly.
Everything he's been saying, and so it was really, really interesting how they revealed that, and then, like you said, there at the very end, as Indigo is crawling out of the building, which that's another. It's a little bit okay. I guess she was going for the money. Is what we can say, that she was crawling out of the building to go for the money, and she just happened to wander into Max's blood, and that's when
she gets it. I guess she absorbs his power or something.
Yeah, that's what it seemed, I guess, but it was a little, that part for me was a little bit where I kind of went, come on, movie.
Well, when you explain that whole Cleo thing and Max thing being together and their powers, it kind of reminded me a little bit almost of like Hancock with Will Smith.
I had that in my notes, and I erased it because I was like, no, it's not exactly like Hancock, but it
sounds like it. Yeah.
It's very similar.
Yeah.
So I had a couple more. Paul Scheer was the guy that played Krieg, the guy who shoots himself in the head and has the money, and he's hilarious. He's a comedian and an actor. He's been on a lot of shows and movies and stuff. So as soon as I saw him in this, I was like, "That's Paul Scheer," and I thought that was really cool. And I jumped both times when he shot himself. I just jumped at it. So that was a good scene for us to see Indigo's character. Yes. How she did pull that trigger,
oh my God. Yeah, and that was a crazy scene, honestly.
Yeah. And that click, because it was almost like she got to this point where she realized she had no choice. I guess she had no choice but to pull that trigger, and she was just resigned that whatever happens at this point. And then the fact that the very next shot is the one that kills Krieg. Yeah. Is I was going to say mind blowing.
It was mind blowing. and to all your listeners, do not do that at home, please.
No,
we do not condone that kind of thing. I respect people who have guns. I am a gun holder. Yeah. No, you do not do that.
Yeah, you don't play around. Don't play around.
Be respectful of the weapon, and the weapon will respect you. So. But my final would be the fact that we got the truth behind it all. So we see Max after, with Cleo, and they're on the pavement, and just seeing that and having Indigo fly, of all things. So we never really did get to see Max fly, but in this case, we get to see Indigo fly with his powers.
Yeah.
And so she gets blue.
And so she loves, just like her hair.
Yeah.
I did have a couple quick other ones. Just some things about Cleo. We've already talked a little bit about her, but I like how she, it was one of those things that it was like it dawned on me when he found that stress ball on the manager's desk. That was the same stress ball that Hamster was holding that he got from the Alyssa woman. That I put it all, like the first time I watched it, like all came together, and I was, oh my goodness, Cleo is the big boss, and she somehow came to this world as well. And I was just like, that's crazy. And she's also the head of this viral empire. And, she says she's been there for 6 years. So obviously when they fell, they didn't get to our world at the same time. And it's a really interesting universe that they opened up that, unfortunately we're probably not going to see anything more from, but it was really, really cool. And I thought it was interesting. Again, we already talked about the fact that her blood was red and his was blue. But yeah, so, and there's a few things they didn't show us that we just have to assume happened. And, they showed us that gun store, and I guess that's where he broke in to get all that gear that he was wearing, that like riot gear that he had on. And, but the fight with the guy in the glasses, it was really good. They had a kind of a haze in the air, and so you really couldn't see exactly what was happening, but you could definitely tell that this guy was holding his own against Max. And then, of course, Indigo shoots him in the leg and tells him to leave. In that moment at the end, you already said that where we reveal that it's all true. Indigo has that moment when she's absorbing that blood and when she's getting Max's powers, that she sees the other side. She sees the parallel world just like Max was seeing it. So I thought all that was really, really cool for the movie to give to us. So
yeah. So you had a couple of quotes.
Yeah, just a couple of little quotes here that I keyed in on that I thought was, I've already told the one that when Hamster sees the blue blood, he says it's true. But there's also that in that first meeting where he meets the Alyssa woman, he says, this is not the world in here. And he's trying to get her to understand that he can show the world that this these videos that they're putting out with cats with laser eyes, that's not the world, that they need to show something real. And then he comes up with Max, who is real or not real, we don't know until the end. So I thought it was really kind of a cool little quote there.
Cool.
So you had some comic news?
Actually, no. I wanted to get into ratings.
Oh, okay.
So what would you rate this movie on a comic level? 1 to 10, I would say.
1 to 10. I don't know if I'd go back and watch it again necessarily. It's a solid B. I'd give it an 8. It's a,
really?
it's a 7.5 to an 8. I'm not really big on, somewhere in between that 7.5 to an 8. And not horrible, but not great. And
not your go-to movie,
No, it's not going to be my go-to movie. I'm probably not going to go back to watch it again anytime soon.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But I'm going to give it a high enough rating that because I liked it, and I would recommend that people watch it.
Yeah, very much. And when you said you were going to give it an 8, I was like, wow, I was going to give it like a 7.5. So I was like, because to me, it reminded me, it's like, oh, it's entertaining. It showed promise. It gave a good story, something I would definitely watch again, but not anytime soon. And it kind of reminded me of like, hey, when I was in high school, Punisher came out with Dolph Lundgren. Now, mind you, it wasn't the true comic book version of Punisher, but overall, it had a good story to it, but we didn't get that comicness of the Punisher, but it alluded to it. So with this, it fell in the same and similar format of that for me. So that's the reason why I gave it a 7.5. It's not something I'm just going to jump to right away. It's like, hey, I'm not going to watch, Infinity Wars and Endgame again. No, I'm going to watch Infinity Wars and Endgame again. I will. But with these, I'll be like, it's nothing on in the afternoon.
Yeah.
I've watched everything I could possibly think at this point. What's something to pass the time that I could really enjoy? Yeah. And that would probably be it. It wouldn't be like a guilty pleasure for me, not to throw anything out from Adrenaline Cinema podcast, but it's something that I would occasionally watch. But,
Yeah, and like I said, I'm not going to give it a super low rating because I want people to know that I do recommend that it's watchable. It's a good. Like I said, I recommend people at least check it out.
Give it a one-time watch. Yeah. So, as you were saying before with comic news, well, if any of you listeners read the Walking Dead comics or are a fan of the show, well, Michonne shows up on a panel of Robert Kirkman's book that came out this month. A lovely little Easter egg in another book where, that Kirkman basically snuck in. And he's done this before and other Image properties that he takes part of. So you see her sword and the villain of the comic in the panel over her body. Her head is all messed up. So they basically killed Michonne in space at this point, and the issue is Solid Blood number 17. And the way the comic is printed, it's printed like an old school comic paper style, comic on the inside. So it was fairly thin. I'm like, wow, for $3. I'm like, what the? So, but it was actually, I read the comic and it wasn't that bad. It's not something I'm going to jump into as far as like a comic book to start reading now. But I thought when I heard about this, I was like, I got to pick it up to see that panel. Well, I did.
Yeah.
So that's something cool. We got a lot of things to look forward to in the coming months. So WandaVision is going to be coming out soon to Disney Plus, and I think that's the 15th.
Yeah, January 15th, I believe.
And we got Snowpiercer coming up too, so we might have dual duty.
Yeah, we'll have to see. We'll have to take a look at what we're going to do. And see, I think WandaVision is only like 6 episodes, so we might be able to do some brief WandaVision type stuff.
Sure.
While we do Snowpiercer, because I think Snowpiercer is the 12th. Let me check that right.
I thought that was the 25th or something.
You might be right. 25th. Yeah, you're right. So we've got a little bit of time. So if WandaVision is the 15th, we'll have at least 1 or 2 episodes of that before the first episode of Snowpiercer comes out. So
yeah, we'll try to do our best to keep up with both, or if not, we might double up on an episode or do a duel, so we can do Snowpiercer, whatever episode, and then WandaVision right after that.
Yeah,
so that
like
way
I said,
you guys could keep up, and that way you could skip for whatever you don't really want to watch along with us. So that way it gives you an option.
So my only podcast recommendation this week is House Podcastica. We'll be starting their Cobra Kai season 3 coverage. They're covering 2 episodes a week over there. I believe they record on sometime on Saturdays. So those episodes drop Friday morning, Thursday morning, Friday morning, something like that.
Cool.
Or no, I guess they're all out. That's so never mind. They're all out now, but House Podcast is only going to be covering 2 episodes a week. So
yes. Yeah. And I really enjoy listening to them when they cover Cobra Kai. Unfortunately, I'm one of those people that can't really go week to week, so I had to binge watch all of Cobra Kai season 3. But thankfully,
don't spoil anything for me. I only watched the first 2. So
thankfully, my memory sucks for all the in between. There are key points, yes, but I will be rewatching when I do submit any feedback. I didn't submit this week for the first 2 episodes, but I'll do it for next week. Yeah. But I think, it's pretty cool to listen to what Rima and Jason and is Richard going to be on it?
Yeah, I believe it's Richard.
Okay. So,
I'm not naming people on voicemails anymore because I messed up names last week.
Don't worry about it, dude. I do the same thing. But you could also hear Rima on the Podcast Network on Strange Indeed with her coverage with Ben Beck, who's part of the Next Level Podcast Network as well, and they're covering The Stand. So I'm not sure if they covered episode 3 yet, but if you have access to CBS All Access, I recommend watching The Stand because I started really getting into it after the first 2 episodes. So
yeah, it's really good. I watched the 3rd episode. I haven't sent my feedback in yet, but I've watched the 3rd episode. So they record on Monday nights. So
yeah,
so I got a little bit of time on that one.
Cool.
All
Same
right.
here.
So this podcast that you're listening to right now can be heard on Spotify, Google Play, Apple Podcasts, whatever podcast player of choice you have. If there's a chance or opportunity to give us a review, throw us a review on there. Hopefully it'll be a good one. I don't, but give us some feedback. Let us know how you think we're doing. We also have a website, which is panelstopixelspodcast.com. We have a Facebook page, which is facebook.com/panelstopixels. We have an email address that you can email us, panelstopixels1@gmail.com. That's panelstopixels1. The TO is spelled out right there in the middle, the number 1 @gmail.com. We are also on YouTube under Panels to Pixels podcast. Go on there, subscribe, give us a thumbs up, and let us know what you're thinking. Mark, have you put any thought into next week?
Well, next week, I believe you, and I decided that we're going to do Wonder Woman 1984. We're not sure exactly if we're going to have a guest on, but we'll see what they have to say. If not, you and I will be covering Wonder Woman 1984 and reviewing that particular movie that came out everybody could see it on HBO Max for, I believe, about a month. And it's also in theaters, so they're trying to make their money. So I suggest if you're really in the idea of actually going out to the movies, go out and see it. You know, give these people some money to do it. If not, be an HBO Max subscriber and go watch Wonder Woman on your own TV. And let us know your thoughts on that, too. Just put them in the comments down below on Facebook when we do publish this on our Facebook page, or just send an email.
Yeah.
Too, because we love this movie. Seems to have a lot of mixed reviews amongst a lot of fans as well as professionals, and a couple of people I know in the medium, in the actual media business. We had a discussion recently, and I think out of the four of us, myself and one other person, were on the sides of saying it was enjoyable. It wasn't anything great, but you'll hear more when Steve and I and possibly our guest co-host comes on and what I thought about it.
Yeah.
So
Exciting.
So where else can listeners hear us? Well, I could be heard here right on Panels to Pixels podcast on the Next Level Podcast Network, right on Panels to Pixels. So you could hear me here. But I also have another podcast called Adrenaline Cinema Podcast, and that you could find on the Pirate Core Entertainment Network. And with that, we cover all action, suspense, adventure films, thriller films. And just recently, actually, I was in the middle of editing before we actually started recording, Steve and I, tonight. So that will be up around the time that this, or probably before this podcast goes up. But you could hear my friend Jerry and I talk about the 1982 movie, The Thing.
I sent you a voicemail on that. Did it get in time?
Yes, you did. So I have to edit that in.
Excellent.
But
Cool.
you could check Jerry out and myself out on that on an Adrenaline Cinema podcast. And if you're interested, like I said, that podcast could be found on anywhere. It'd be like Spotify, TuneIn, Deezer, yeah, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, all that good stuff.
I don't know podcast players.
So we're on. From what I recall, we're on a total of 22 to 24.
Nice
podcast.
I watch a lot of TV shows, and I submit feedback to a lot of our friends' podcasts. But really, this is my first love, Panels to Pixels, and I enjoy being on here. I'm thankful to the Next Level Podcast Network for putting up with us for another year. And so, yeah. Yeah,
and you could also hear Steve on Adrenaline Cinema Podcast when his movies come up as well, too. We'll always keep you guys aware of when Steve's on. So with that, we just want to thank everybody for listening. I'm Mark.
And I'm Steve.
And this was Panels to Pixels, and we'll see you on the next panel. Thanks for listening. Good night, everybody.
Good night.